All right, welcome back to Responsibility Advocates. Today we are speaking with the St. Bernard Parish 2015 candidates for runoff, and today I have Guy McInnis. Guy, welcome.
How you doing?
Fantastic. Thanks for coming. We wanted to have this opportunity with you to just ask you a few questions and really give you an opportunity to share with the citizens of St. Bernard from your own words and from your own heart the things that are happening in this parish and the things that matter to you most without just allowing you 1 or 2 minutes to answer. So this is your opportunity to expand and giving us the opportunity to know a little bit more about you in more than a minute. Is that fair?
Sure.
Fantastic. Well, first of all, I wanted to begin with asking you what it is that you're running for and why are you running for this position?
I'm running for parish president in St. Bernard Parish. I'm running. I've been a councilman for the last 3.5 years, and I see a lot of problems with parish government that I can fix and use the skills that I've developed over my lifetime. I feel that I have a unique set of qualifications and experience, having grown up in our recreation department and having such gratitude for the people who coached me over the years and allowed me to get a college scholarship and to get my degree and to have a job and to raise a family. I really point back to those days. Served on the Water and Sewer Commission and learned all of that as a young adult coming out of college. Coached my children and a lot of other people's children through the recreation department. Was a high-level executive in governmental entities and private industry as an accountant and internal control officer. So, I have that unique background, I think, and being in the school system for 17 years. Haven't seen, I know what our community is all about because you see it there at that high school. And I'm just looking forward to this runoff and for another three weeks and see where the community's at, and we can move forward after that.
Sure, that's fantastic. Well, let me ask you that based on all of your experience as a teacher, as a coach, as an administrator, and somebody very educated in accounting and many positions there. It sounds like you have a large skill set and that's very diverse. What sets you apart from your opponent? I don't. The way I run my campaigns and the way I used to play ball and the way I coach and the way I teach is that I don't look at what separates me from a specific person. I know what separates me from what's been in the past as far as, politicians and when they get in and how things happen, it seems, over the years. I really want to get in and change my community for the better. I want to see our image increase on, be more positive in the regional and metropolitan area. I feel like being married for 31 years and having raised 3 children, all graduated from college. They all work and live here in St. Bernard Parish. All 3 of them work in the public school system. 2 of my grandchildren go to school in the public school system. So I think, that image would be a good one for St. Bernard Parish. Well, let me ask you that. Based on the image of St. Bernard, you said that you wanted to change that. Explain to me, what do you think that the image is, as well as what are you going to do to change that image? Well,
what I'm going to do is act as a parish president, as a leader of this community with integrity and have accountability to its citizens. That's number one. Once we can get the confidence of our citizens, then we need to act in a certain way on the metropolitan area. We need to connect to our region like we've never connected before in St. Bernard Parish. We've been this little community set off to the side, 2 ways in, 2 ways out.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want to connect to the city. We have a great city in New Orleans, and we need to connect to that because we have a great parish in St. Bernard.
Well, based on that, how do you plan to connect with the rest of the people, the rest of the parishes?
Well, we need to develop some neighborhoods in St. Bernard Parish that attracts the millennials, if you will, the 20-somethings and 30-somethings, and it deals with quality of life and mixed-use neighborhoods where you have coffee shops, grocery stores, a little cocktail place within a community, walking paths, which we have some of the most beautiful walking paths around we don't use, the 40 Open and our marsh right behind our communities. So it's something that we need to accept
new residents with open arms from the metropolitan area, and we need to become that place where people can get out of the city, if you will, and come raise a family in a safe way in our parish, like it was in the 50s and 60s, how we grew, actually.
Interesting. Okay. Well, staying in that same vein, image, there's a lot of images that have been taking place over the country for the last several months and several weeks, and we even had some of our own issues here a few weeks ago. And so, in your opinion, I just wanted to ask you a basic question. Do you think that there is or what do you think that the racial temperature is in our community here?
You know, to take a temperature of, you mean racial tensions?
Sure.
You know,
one way to look at it.
You know, the temperature, and said that this is how I look at it, having grown up here and lived here all my life, is we have a certain reputation here in St. Bernard Parish when it comes to racial issues. If you would have gone back before Katrina and said, 10 years from now, you're going to have, I don't know, 5 times the amount of African Americans living in St. Bernard Parish, I don't think people in the metropolitan area would have thought that we would have the racial harmony, if you will, that we have compared to what people would think we have in St. Bernard Parish. I don't know if you understand what I mean by that, but I just think people would feel like that would never work in St. Bernard Parish, that there would be an outward of racial tensions in St. Bernard Parish. That hasn't been the case, and that did happen in the last 10 years in St. Bernard Parish. I'm in a school system every day. Mm-hmm. It's high school students, 18 to 14 years old or so. And, you know, there are no problems, outward problems. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of racial tensions in school with these students. I see them work together, I see them play together, I see them fight together. We all did that growing up. But, you know, if you compare that to what the temperature is in St. Bernard Parish, to me, I think that it's okay, and it's there for us to work together to discuss the elephant in the room, which is racial tensions that's sitting there but nobody sees. And I just think when little things pop up, racial things mm-hmm. pop up in the nation, and when you saw a racial issue in St. Bernard Parish come up, that elephant shows up.
So let me jump in really quick. Based on that, do you think that the elephant in the room, do you think that because of what happened with the Boulevard and Colonial Boulevard, do you think that exposed maybe some of the racial tension, or do you think that created racial tension that wasn't there?
I think everyone knows that the racial tension is there. So I don't know if it actually exposed it. It brought some people to the forefront to actually say some things in a public forum. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's missing. I really do think discussions between people that live in a community, sure. young and old, in a truthful way, and everyone expressing their opinions, their thoughts, in an open and honest way, I think is the only way that you're going to reduce that temperature that you're talking about. Right. And whether or not people agree is a different thing when I think of temperature. You know, you can disagree, but the temperature can be cool if you understand. Right. So I don't think we have a whole lot of we don't have a whole lot of racial incidents mm-hmm. in St. Bernard Parish. There's a lot of racial issues. The incidents are happening in the nation and in our country. And we need to understand those and where right and wrong is in those issues, mm-hmm. incidents, I should say. And apply that in our everyday life and teach our children that right and wrong is what matters, not the color of somebody's skin.
Sure. Well, that leads into the next question. The choices of right and wrong and the direction in which you go or decide to go. What is the moral compass that decides for Guy McInnis, this is the direction, or this is the hard choice that I need to make? What is that moral compass for you?
It just comes from a lifetime of discipline from my parents and adults in your life, and raising your own children. And you know, when you've done wrong, bad things happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so and a lot of the Bible teaches, if you know, and you know, and I don't know all of the you know, verses and all that, but I know from reading the Bible that if you do the right thing and ask for forgiveness and forgive, you will prosper and be peaceful and live in harmony. So I think from a leadership standpoint for a community, I think that's true for a community too, from its leaders. So if a community as a whole does the right thing and pushes forward, and even though things might seem bad, but you do the right thing, we will prosper and we will live in peace.
So is that a hope that you can influence by your leadership to create the community to make right decisions?
You know, we're going to make right decisions if I'm elected. Whether or not people agree with those decisions is another story. Leadership is not easy. Leadership is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're coaching 12-year-old kids and you have to discipline a 12-year-old little girl, it's not easy, because they cry and they think you're being mean to them or whatever. But when you're leading a community, you make the right decisions, whether they're tough, you know, or whether they're easy, and you move on. And you know, we need a sustained leadership like that in small communities and in our country to move us forward.
Fantastic. As an elected official, that we're producing this for everybody here in St. Bernard, as an elected official, what would you consider to be your personal responsibility to the citizens of St. Bernard Parish?
Personal responsibility is that, you know, when you pay your money into your parish for services, that we make sure that your money is being spent in a proper way and that you are receiving the services for the money you're paying. That's the number one thing from an accountant point of view. The other thing is that the leadership of your community needs to act with integrity and have accountability to you as a citizen, and to act in a way that citizens can be proud of and look to for guidance. So, you know, we put those two things together, maybe we're halfway there, and there's a lot of other things we can do. But if we do that, then it would be easier to look at the light at the end of the forest, and we could expand St. Bernard Parish into what it can be. But we have to face the brush in the forest before we can get to the light. And I want to clear that brush so that we can all see where our parish could be in the future.
All right, so a year from now, let's say, if you are elected, we can come back and have this conversation, and we can hold you accountable to two things: fiscal responsibility and integrity. Is that what you're saying?
You can, and also, I forgot one top priority is our water. We need to make sure that we do whatever we can with our water, that the amoeba never, ever, ever shows up again. Okay. So that would be the third one, and I apologize.
That's
for
all right. Do you have a plan for that?
Well, what I want to do, having learned as much as I have, and having put a system in where we're going to change out the pipes because the corrosiveness is in the bottom, in the inside of these pipes. These pipes have been in the ground for 80 to 100 years, and we need to change them out. We're doing that. We need to bring someone in on a consulting basis to make sure that we're doing the right things in treating our water at the plant. Because once it gets into the system, that's where the amoeba develops. And we have excellent employees at the Water and Sewer. They've been there for a long time. We just need someone from the outside to give our citizens the confidence that they need going forward. And the goal, well, not the goal, the mandate for our employees and for this person who we need you know, real badly in St. Bernard, is to make sure that the citizens of this parish will not have to deal with amoeba ever again.
Great. Thank you. Well, last question. Here's the opportunity now for you to maybe set the record straight. And there's probably different questions that have been, or statements that have been said, or people have asked you different questions. And I know that we've been asked this question, so we wanted to address it and allow you to speak on it. There's been different literature out there from both sides that said when you took office in government, that the government was not necessarily in a good place financially. Now, your opponent says when he left office, that he left office and the government in a really good place. It seems to be these are at odds. Can you clarify these two different things?
Well, you know, they're really not at odds. You know, when the last council, and let me back up a little bit. I serve in the same position as my opponent,
Okay.
as council chairman, and serve from the East.
Mm-hmm.
We don't make all of these decisions, and if everything goes great, it's not just us.
Oh, sure.
It's the whole council, it's the administration, it's the citizens who's done well or did bad, right? They left an $8 million budget, surplus, I should say, fund balance with our for parish government. But what the previous council did was submit a budget that was $4.5 million deficit. Now, number one, that violates our charter. That's malfeasance in office, in my opinion. Number two, you start out with an $8 million fund balance. You automatically now have a $3.5 million fund balance at the end of the year, right? If everything goes perfect in their budget that they submitted, you are using one-time funds to work on an operational budget. So you know at the end of the year, you're only going to have $3.5 million left. So you got to correct $1 million just to get it to what your fund balance is. The year after that, if everything goes perfectly, you got a $3.5 million problem on your hands.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping you can follow it, and I'm hoping the people at home can follow that. If I have $50,000 in the bank and I make $25,000 and I'm going to spend $80,000 in the next year, that's not enough.
Right.
So that money runs out. So that's what happened. And not only did they budget a $4.5 million deficit, the sales tax revenue within that budget was overestimated by $4 million.
Wow.
So I don't know if you're an accountant or I don't know if you're following this,
Gotcha.
but if that's that's a $8.5 million hole when you, on the first day you stepped in the office, from my standpoint, with an $8.5 million fund balance. There's something wrong with that, right? So we can't leave our community with a operating budget that does not reflect the revenues that you're going to collect in that next year. That's why the state of Louisiana is in a situation that it's in. Governor Jindal used one-time revenues to supplement an operational budget on an annual basis. And you can't do that. So, you know, but that was fixed. And now our operational budget is in line. This council is not going to submit a deficit budget because it would violate our charter.
Mm-hmm.
We have collected, not me, this has no bearing on what I did or didn't do, but we have about $5.5 million of BP money that's untouched, sitting in the bank for the next council.
Is that one-time funds, or is that
That's
allowed to
one-time
be?
funds.
Okay.
And we will not use that to plug our budget going forward. There's $4 million sitting in the general fund from the fund's sale of our lots in St. Bernard Parish. So there's around $10 million sitting in the fund balance for the next council to utilize to bring our parish forward. We have a budget that's going to be balanced that they walk into. There are some issues going forward with our oil industry and our severance taxes and our sales tax collections that the next council is going to have to deal with, and administration. But those things are being said, and I'm not sure, as an accountant and as a guy who has audited financial statements you know, I'm always pulling out the truth. You know, I never was in business where I had to spin my financial statements or
Sure.
make them look good. You know, as an auditor, I always made sure that, okay, you making it look one way, I want to make sure it's the truth.
Right, just black and white for you.
So I think that's the difference between myself and my opponent. I don't shed any negative light on that. That's what he has done his whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, you know, shedding a positive light on a financial situation in our parish. I'd just rather tell the truth, tell it like it is, and move forward.
Fantastic. All right, well, thank you.
That was, I can't say that any shorter than that. I apologize, but that, you know, that's an issue.
No, and that's big. I mean, obviously that's something that's on your heart and a part of your history and who you are, and so we appreciate that. That was a great answer. So this is just the last moment that we have for you. It's all about you, no questions, but it's an opportunity for you to look in the camera and ask or share with the citizens of St. Martin why you think they should vote for you. So if you want to go ahead, it's all you.
Yeah, I appreciate every day. You know, walking the streets of our parish and knocking on doors and talking to the citizens of this parish. It's been a joy, and I'm looking forward to the next 3 weeks, and hopefully we can take our parish forward. No matter who gets elected, St. Bernard Parish is going to be in good hands. I think that I'm the best choice for you to move our parish forward. I just want to see our parish prosper, and I want to see my grandchildren want to live here one day.
Fantastic. Guy, thank you so much.
All right.
And appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right.